to the Unleash Success Podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, Corey Corpodian.
Welcome back to Unleash Success. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter yet, just go to unleashsuccess.com, enter your email so you can get all the tools and strategies sent directly to you each and every week. Today's episode number 54, and we're going to talk about taking ownership of your own life to increase your success. The reason I want to talk to you guys about this is because I see a lot of people blaming others for their lack of success. And a big key that helped me change my entire life was when I truly took ownership of my financial well-being, of my mental and emotional well-being, and my own health. You know, it's not just about taking ownership of your successes. With social media these days, everybody loves to brag how awesome they are, but they don't own their failures. And I'm not talking about trying to be needy and tell everybody about all your problems. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying own your failures as much as you're going to own your successes. And when we talk about ownership, if you truly own everything you do, if you take control of your entire life, you'll be able to accomplish so much more. But there's a reason that a lot of people don't want to take ownership in their life. There's a reason that they don't get out of their comfort zone. They don't overcome that fear. They don't overcome that limiting belief and never achieve the success that they truly want. And the reason that they don't do that, the reason they don't take ownership, is because it's scary. It sounds great to take ownership of your successes, achieve your goal, right? Lose 10 pounds, get a new job, get a $10,000 raise. This sounds exciting. You know, make 1,000 sales on your new online course. This sounds exciting, but nobody wants to take ownership for the course that they spent 40 hours creating and didn't sell anything. I know I've been there. Had a couple sales the first time I launched my first course. You know, nobody wants to talk about how when they launch a podcast and they had 20 people listen. And, you know, I don't think that's a failure, to be honest, because I started there. I started with 20 people, then 30 and 40, 50. And then finally we broke 100 and then a couple hundred and started growing faster and faster, getting thousands of downloads every month. Nobody really wants to own their failures because it's painful. Nobody wants to be the one responsible for their failures because it hurts. The embarrassment, the feeling of not being good enough. You know, can be really, really painful. So instead of owning up to the failure, people tend to shy away from the pain and instead take a little bit of an easier road, blaming somebody else. It's not my fault I can't get any sales. I don't have a good boss. I don't have a good manager. And then the manager's sitting there going, saying, you know, it's not my fault my team sucks. They don't know how to do sales. They're just not good at it. It's not their personality, or whatever excuse they want to give. They blame other people for their lack of success because it's easier. It's not my fault. How could I possibly control everybody else? How could I possibly take ownership for everything? And that's what I want to talk to you about, though, is how we're going to take ownership. We're going to talk about different examples of why ownership is so important. We're also going to go into some tools at the end for ways you can take ownership in your own life today. Now, look at that example where, you know, you don't take ownership. And I think people don't take ownership because it gives short-term relief, right? When you fail at something, if it's not your fault, if it's, you know, because somebody else didn't do their job, it's not my fault. Makes you feel good in the short term. But in the long term, you don't get any more success. You never get outside your comfort zone. You never overcome that fear. And so by avoiding that fear, avoiding that failure, that ownership, we actually hurt ourselves in the long run. You know, and you might avoid it because you're embarrassed or you feel like you're not worth it, you're not good enough, you're insignificant. But ultimately, in the long term, this causes a shift in our beliefs about the world. You know, you'll hear people say some crazy stuff sometimes, and it's so fucking normal now. It blows my mind. Oh, you know, the reason I'm not successful is because the president. You know, if I had a different president, I'd be more successful. Well, what the fuck are you talking about? Every 4 years we get a new president. Are you going to blame the president every single time you're not successful? The reason I don't have a lot of money is the economy sucks. What about all the other people that are making money even when the economy does suck? It's not our environment that dictates our circumstances. It's not what's going on around us that changes whether we're successful or not. It's what's going on inside us. So people say all this crazy stuff, blaming others, and it only leads to more problems. What I love too is people will blame the past. They'll just say, hey, you know what? I wasn't successful because this happened to me when I was younger. Great. That happened to you when you were younger. Why does it have to hold you back now? Why does it have to limit you now? It's like I've been there. I have. Okay. Like literally for years, I was depressed and I had this crazy belief that life was just fucked up. That, my entire family line was behaved a certain way, and it's so funny because that's just not true. My mom was this super optimistic person and she always had this utopian view of life where everything was just going to work out. And I literally thought she was just batshit crazy. And I still sometimes I'm like amazed at how optimistic she is because it is so unbelievable. But, sometimes you got to learn from your parents. And at the time, I couldn't see it, but later in life, I finally realized that what she was giving me, what she was showing me was a gift. Because that optimism is what allows us to accomplish our goals. She believed so strongly that things were going to happen that she took action to make them happen. She took action every single day. Whereas some other people might say, hey, this is a realistic outlook. This is really what's going to happen. And realism is just the death of some dreams. If you got big goals, most of the time, they're unrealistic. And I encourage you to be unrealistic. Every single goal I've ever had is unrealistic. And guess what? I worked my ass off and finally accomplished it. And then people always say, how'd you do it? Because they couldn't see what I could see. So I believe in that optimism. And I don't believe we should blame our past. I think we should learn from our past. And ultimately, what everybody's doing when they blame others, when they blame what's going on in the economy, when they blame their past, is that they're giving up control of their own life to outside influences. And that's why they never truly become successful. Because the only way to truly become successful is to take ownership of your own life. Yeah, sure, some people once in a blue moon get lucky, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about what really the strategy for creating your own luck is and what most people probably are doing and don't even realize it. So here's one of my favorite keys to success, and that's first to become aware of everything that is outside of our control. We talked about it just now. Other people, the past, the environment around us, just acknowledging that you truly cannot control what happens to that allows us to understand what we can take ownership for. And that's where the good stuff is, guys. That's where life comes alive. That's where the passion's at. That's where you feel like you've got freedom, like you've got purpose, like your life means something. And that is inside you. That's the internal world in our own mind. See, we can control what we focus on in life. We can control our thoughts and our actions. If I look at and somebody says, oh, my boss is the reason that I'm not successful. Well, if I take ownership for that, I own my own failure and I say, you know what? Maybe I can just shift my focus and say, maybe I need to go ask for help. Maybe I need to go talk to my boss and say, I don't learn by verbally telling me. I need you to show me. Maybe, you're the boss and your salespeople aren't doing well. Maybe you should go ask them, hey, is there a better way you can learn? Is there something I can do for you? If you take ownership of it, you're going to take more action. Would you have said that if you weren't taking ownership for it? Probably not. And that's why it's so empowering, because when you take ownership, everything is your responsibility. And when you have responsibility for it, you can take action to make it better. So go out there and make it better. Go to your team, go to your people, go to your manufacturer and find out, what can I do? What can I do? That's a key question. It's not, listen, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's not that, guys. We're not trying to blame other people. We're not trying to get them to do it. It's what can I do for you? What can I do to help you become better? Because if I help you become better, we all get better. If you own a company, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an intrapreneur working in someone else's company, you got to take ownership. Because if you approach a situation with that attitude, what can I do for you? What can I do so that we all can become successful? Now you get assertive and you take more action, which brings more success in your life. And that's what taking ownership is all about. See, ownership gives us control over our lives. It empowers us to take action and ultimately make our lives better. You know what's also really cool about taking ownership? Is now instead of blaming people for your problems, you can literally solve them on your own. And I'm not saying you always have to have the solution, but you got to be willing to find it. Hands down, one of my favorite traits that I have cultivated. I'm not saying I ever was like this before. In fact, I used to blame everybody for everything. Nothing was ever my fault. I thought I was stupidly perfect, whatever. The truth is that I was not perfect and I could not figure everything out on my own. But what I developed was the resourcefulness to go find somebody who could. I might not have the solution, but I'll find somebody who can give it to you. I might not have the answer, but I'll find the answer. My trait that I love and something that has helped my success is that I'm willing to do whatever it takes to find the solution. Give me a problem, I'll find you a solution A through Z. You say A doesn't work? No problem. We got B, we got C, D, E, F, G, whatever it is. It's like that old saying goes, if there's a brick wall in front of you, I'm going to find a way over it, under it, around it, or shit, I'll just break it down, build a door and open it and go right through it. And that's the key. When you take full ownership of your life and you're resourceful enough to find a solution, success compounds on itself, and that's what we really want to encourage in our life. If you want to unleash success in your life, start taking ownership. So, of course, we talked about failure a little bit, and let's face it, we all fail, and it's scary. It's really, really scary to fail at something that is super important to you. If you don't care about it, it's not that big of a deal. But when it's really important, like you don't get that promotion, you start a business and you start selling something and you open up your store and nobody buys anything, it's scary. But by owning your own failures, you are able to take its power away from what it does to you. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I remember I tried getting a job in college at this indoor skydiving place called Flyaway in Las Vegas. Coolest thing I'd ever seen. And my buddy was working there. And so I was like, I really need a summer job. He's like, we're not hiring right now. So what I did was I went in and I asked if they were hiring. I talked to the manager. I introduced myself and I said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And I was on work study at the time, which was going to end the minute the semester ended. So I needed something very quickly, like within the next 2 months. And they said, no. They said, no, we don't have any jobs. We're not looking to hire anybody. We don't need you. And I could have been like, oh, well, that's fair. Like, you know what? They're not hiring. And I could have got another job that paid less and, wasn't as fun or exciting or something really cool like indoor skydiving. But I took ownership. Instead of just saying, no big deal, like it's their fault, like I can't get the job because not their fault, but they're not hiring. So that's the reason I can't get the job. Instead, what I did was, you know what? I said, all right, I'm going to go in every week after class. It was just a quick drive from school. I was at UNLV at the time, drove down there, walked in, said, hey, how's it going? You guys hiring at all? Introduced myself again to all the managers. And after a couple weeks, everybody was like, hey, Corey, what's going on? They still didn't have a job. And I was getting a little bit stressed because I had a summer and I had to be able to pay for bills. And all of a sudden, almost like out of the blue, I got lucky. But I created that luck. What ended up happening? They needed some more people. A few people quit. Summer was picking up. It was getting busy. And they hired me. And so it's not always that we get lucky, but we prepare enough. They wouldn't have even known my name had I not gone in there consistently every single week. So I created my own luck. Week after week, I would just say hi. And a few months later, that's what happens. So I got the job, and that place it's just a second home to me. They treated me like family, just like everybody else in there. And it's so funny, actually. Both my sisters, throughout the years, ended up working there. And it's funny because one of my sisters is 11 years younger than I am, and she got a job there. I mean, that's literally how tight we are, and it will forever be a second home and a second family to me. And it all came down to me taking ownership of my own life, to me taking full control, setting the target, knowing this is what I want, and going after it, even though I got said no to. Even though I got said no to a couple weeks in a row, and eventually I got a yes. So I've been applying that to every area of my life. If I'm not happy in my career, my question is, what action can I do to make it better? Because I take ownership of that. I take ownership of my mental and emotional well-being. If I'm not feeling good about life, like Steve Jobs would look in the mirror and say, how's life feeling today? Like, am I excited about life? And if he said no too many days in a row, he knew he had to change something. And I do that almost daily. I check in with myself because I'm constantly trying to make myself better. And I know that if my mental game is at its best, everything else in life is perfect. That's what emotional fitness is all about. So you look at it, if you're not happy with something, what can I do to make it better is a question you want to ask. Something bad happens. Maybe you lose a deal. Maybe you didn't get a bonus. Maybe you didn't make as much money you wanted. But the question is, what can I learn? And then what can I do to make it better? You see, you got to own this life. I look at my life and I go, I own this. I get really intense about it too. Like, I got this whole thing that I do. It's an awesome incantation, but it's basically like, I own this. I own this life. I fucking own this. Do you own your life? You see, no one else is going to do it for you. Only you can do it for you. If you don't own your own life, you're going to be at the whims of chance. And finding that success, finding, unlimited success, freedom, financially, emotionally, in relationships and health, it's like finding a needle in a haystack if you leave it up to chance. But when you own everything good and bad in your life, now you can take strategic action to make your life better. Whether it's sending out resumes for a new job, showing up every week just to say hi like I did, or going to every single networking event you can find to build your business, it's all about taking ownership. There's a great book that I absolutely love. I didn't read till maybe 2 years ago, called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And, I'll link it to the show notes, but it's absolutely phenomenal. It takes what I'm saying to the extreme, and that everything in the entire world is your responsibility. And for those crazy enough, like me, to take that mentality, it truly is life-changing. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, you can take full responsibility for everything in your career. If the manufacturer messed up, it's your responsibility. If your sales guy sucks, it's your responsibility. If your boss sucks, it's your responsibility. And by doing this, you take extreme ownership of everything. And because it's your responsibility, now you can take action to make it better. So what are you waiting for? No longer do you have to wait for something to happen to you. No longer do you have to wait for that lucky break. Instead, you create your own luck. I always say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. But with extreme ownership, you prepare and even create that opportunity. In essence, you can create your own luck, guys. Imagine you prospected 1,000 new people. Imagine you called 1,000 people next week. Just by the law of averages, it says you'll be successful with some of them. And that's where success lies. Between taking full ownership of your life, full responsibility, and following it up with relentless action to make your life better. That's where you become successful. That's where you unleash success. So let's talk about a few ways to take ownership in our life today. Number 1, focus on what you can control. Don't worry about what you can't control. Don't worry about what others are doing. Don't worry about who's the president, the economy, what's going on. Focus on what you can do. What actions can you take? Number 2, if something bad does happen, don't blame someone else. Don't blame something else. Just deal with it, learn from it, and take action to make it better. Shift your focus if you have to. Do whatever you got to do to make it better. Number 3, take ownership of your failures. When you own them and you learn from them, they no longer have that negative power they once held over you. Because guess what? All failures are just stepping stones to success. Number 4, believe there is a way to make it happen and then go find it. It's like when that wall's in front of you, if you don't see a way to get through it, can you go over it? Can you go under it, around it, or build a door? Number 5, if you don't have the answer, someone else out there does. All you need to do is always be finding the solution. You got to be the guy that always, or the person that always finds a solution. If you can do that, any problem, you're the person who always finds a solution, then you will unleash success. It's like the old saying goes, if it's meant to be, it will be. But that's bullshit. If you want it to be, then you have to go work for it. Don't wait for someone else to give it to you. Go out there and get it. And that is what taking ownership in your life really means. If you take ownership, you build your own success. If you enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that I have is please go subscribe, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you leave us a 5-star rating or review, that absolutely helps us get our message out there. Each week, I'm going to continue to interview amazing people, and we're going to break down their tools and strategies to help get you real results. Feel free to visit the website, unleashsuccess.com, and subscribe to our newsletter so you get updates each week. And remember, knowing is not enough. Knowledge alone is not power. Action is. Because action is the only way you're going to get the results you want in life and truly live the life of your dreams. So take some action, subscribe to the podcast today, and get ready to unleash success in you.